She's back, and not a moment too soon when you look at our new poll. This is CNN Tonight. I'm Don Lemon. Thanks for joining us. Hillary Clinton's lead over Donald Trump cut in half in our latest poll of polls. The candidate back on the trail after her bout with pneumonia and speaking tonight at the Congressional Hispanic Caucus dinner in Washington.
I am more confident than ever that our best days are still ahead of us.
Donald Trump, meanwhile, tonight in New Hampshire.
My economic agenda can be summed up in 3 words: jobs, jobs, jobs.
I think he's talking about jobs there, and we're going to get into his new jobs plan tonight. But first, let's go right to CNN's Brianna Keilar. She's at that dinner in Washington tonight that I mentioned. Brianna, good evening to you. You were out covering Hillary Clinton tonight. But I want to start with something Donald Trump said in an interview just published. It's in the Washington Post. Trump again refused to say that President Barack Obama was born in the U.S. He said this: "I'll answer that question at the right time. I just don't want to answer it yet." And then moments ago, Hillary Clinton responded. Listen.
Today, he did it again. He was asked one more time, where was President Obama born? And he still wouldn't say Hawaii. He still wouldn't say America. This man wants to be our next president? When will he stop this ugliness, this bigotry?
You can hear the reaction in the room, Brianna. It is kind of amazing, given the blowback, that he still won't say those words.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly why he strayed from what he has said before, which is I don't talk about that anymore. So this was a little different because he basically said he's not ready to say it. There will be some other time for it. I think you have to go back, though, to 2011 when Donald Trump jumped on the birther bandwagon and actually ended up leading the band when it came to the birther movement. And he saw his popularity soar. At the time, Don, you'll recall there was speculation about whether Donald Trump was going to throw his hat in the ring in the 2012 election. He ultimately decided not to. But I was actually reading this New York Times story that Ashley Parker did, very good, and it describes just kind of how he moved through this process. At one point, through the birther movement, as his star was sort of on the rise with the Republican base, he went from 5th in the polls to 1st in the polls. So maybe part of the reason why he's not going to come out there and say, yeah, you know what, I was wrong, is because he is certainly worried that there is a contingent of people who are in his corner, a big enough contingent that to say that is going to alienate some of them. But you have to look at this in the context of today, right? He's made 2 big mistakes between saying that pastor of a black church in Flint was a nervous mess, when certainly she wasn't, and she had politely corrected him. And now this, sort of giving more credence to something that really is an attempt to undermine America's first black president, is seen to have racist overtones. He's had a bad day with African-American voters.
Yeah, and we're going to talk, maybe there's a strategy behind the whole birther thing moving forward, and we'll discuss that with the panel in just moments. But let's talk about the event, more about the tonight's event. The president was Hillary Clinton's warm-up act tonight at that event. Didn't directly attack Donald Trump, Brianna, but he did talk about the ugliness and the vitriol this campaign season. Listen.
I know that there are a lot of folks who have this notion of what the real America looks like, and somehow it only includes a few of us. But who's going to decide who the real America is? Who's to determine that in this nation of immigrants, in a nation where, unless you are a Native American, you came here from someplace else, that you have a greater claim than anybody here?
So there's no doubt who he was talking about, although he didn't say the word Trump.
No, he didn't. I think there was definitely no doubt to this crowd, and clearly President Obama, who was followed by Hillary Clinton, wants her to carry on with his legacy. He was talking to a very receptive crowd, obviously. Hillary Clinton, a little more direct, certainly calling Donald Trump out by name. Here's some of what she said.
When you hear a presidential candidate spewing bigotry and hate, it's easy to get discouraged. But we're here because we know this election is a choice between not just two people, but two very different visions for America's future. Either we're going to make our economy work for everyone, or just those at the top. Either we're going to fear our differences, or embrace and celebrate our diversity. Either we're going to pit Americans against each other and deepen the divides, or we're going to be stronger together.
And this dinner, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute dinner, Dawn, it's a chance to look at the issue of Hispanic voters, certainly, because this was a key constituent for President Obama. And when you look at the numbers, Hillary Clinton, while she's definitely doing a lot better with Hispanic voters than Donald Trump, she's not performing quite to the level polls are showing that President Obama was. And this is a key constituency. So she made the appeal tonight. President Obama making the appeal on her behalf as well.
She's going to need every single demographic and every single vote, especially those young voters and voters of color. Thank you very much, Brianna. I appreciate that. Let's bring in now CNN's Mark Preston, Dana Bash, and also the Washington Post's Philip Bump. Hi, Dana. Let's talk about this whole refusal to, say the president was born in the United States. It's interesting that his refusal to acknowledge that, especially at this point in the campaign. What is going on here?
I'm trying to figure out the best way to answer that question.
Especially since he's reaching out to African Americans.
Exactly. One thing that comes to mind is that he is not somebody who freely admits that he made a mistake or that he's wrong. And so this might be an example of it, and frankly, the ultimate example of it. Because as Brianna was talking about, when he first really became the champion of the birther movement, he was considered fringe even among Republicans. Mm-hmm. And he just is not letting that go, even in spite the facts that were put in front of him all those years ago when Barack Obama not only released his short birth certificate, but the long one.
Yeah. I have, my ideas about all of this. I want to see what all of you think first. And now, Philip Bump, what do you think? Why do you think he won't do it? Because, listen, you have to read into this. He says, I'll answer that question at the right time. I just don't want to answer it yet. What do you think first?
Well, the way he answered the question suggests that he's waiting for a big moment in a very Donald Trump way. Yeah. Perhaps that big moment is at a debate. There's a lot of speculation.
I think that's what he's going to do. I think he's going to do it at the debate, make it a big deal. Therefore, he gets credit for it. And wait a minute, Mark Preston, you're saying no. Why are you?
I'm with Dana Bash on this. And if Dana is still in this line of thinking, listen, I think that at this point, why is he continuing to draw this out other than the fact that we know that he is somebody who refuses to acknowledge a mistake? He said that when he was talking about God, he said that he didn't need to ask for forgiveness because he hasn't done anything. He's somebody who always has to be right. He threw his campaign manager under the bus.
But isn't that the old, when people are saying, will the real Donald Trump please stand up? Is it the guy before the new management under new,
It's not the one we've seen in the last 3 weeks.
Was that the guy before the new management who said that, or after the management, the campaign managers who will say now what is on the teleprompter and most of the time won't veer from it? I think there's a bigger strategy behind this, a bigger moment that he's waiting for to say that, no?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think that part of the reason that the under new management Donald Trump that we've seen over the course of the past few weeks, which this is a break from, I think part of it is that he's doing better in the polls. I think he's feeling a little chuffed up. He's feeling like he's making progress where he's wanting to make progress. I think that there is also speculation that perhaps he's worried he's going to lose part of his base if he retracts what he's saying. I don't buy that. I think it's hard. I don't know how anyone could look at this race so far and think that he could do anything to lose his core base.
He goes on to say, he added, I don't talk about it anymore. The reason I don't is because everyone is going to be talking about it as opposed to jobs, the military, the vets, security, which is kind of what he says about taxes. But I think, if you're reaching out to...
You know how you don't talk about it anymore? You don't let the story continue on. You say, listen, you know what? Why we're talking about it, sure, he was born here. He could have gave a half-hearted throwaway line to say, okay, sure, he was born in Hawaii. Let's talk about what people really care about. That's when the issue goes away. It doesn't go away now.
Dana, I don't want to talk about it. I know women are mad at me, but they shouldn't be mad at me because that's not what I meant. But even though women are mad at me, wouldn't you just say, I'm sorry that I upset you, instead of doubling down on something, especially if you're trying to get that vote, unless he's not really trying to get the vote?
Yeah, you would think so, but there's nothing that has been conventional about Donald Trump's campaign until recently, when he has been using the teleprompter, even making jokes when the teleprompters didn't work in one or two of his events. But yes, that is what you traditionally do. You know, it didn't even occur to me that maybe he was thinking and waiting for a big moment. Perhaps that is possible.
Did you not watch Dr. Oz today, Dana? I mean,
that.
I mean, everything. It's, you know, he does the build up for every single thing. It's obvious. There's a method to, I don't want to say madness, but a method to his strategy. He does everything. He does a big build up. He gets the media to follow him, and then
I don't know.
and then there's often
actually,
nothing there.
I think that's true, but this is also the guy who follows his gut. He goes with the gut. I mean, I know from covering the campaign, and I know you guys do too, that, I mean, there were often times in the old world where the campaign didn't know what he was going to do on Twitter or what was going to come out of his mouth on the stump. That is how he operates, and frankly, how he has traditionally believes he operates at his best. It's how he beat all of these traditional politicians during the primary. So I still think there's a big part of that in Donald Trump.
Okay, Hillary's back. We mentioned at the top of the show, we didn't talk much about it, but we will right after the break. We'll be right back. Well, breaking news, wouldn't you know, just as we're discussing it now, I need to get to CNN's Dana Bash. By the way, my entire panel is back. We're going to discuss this bit of breaking news with Dana. Dana, we were talking about the birther issue. What do you know?
I just talked to a senior Trump aide who called right after we went to break, who said that we are going to get a statement momentarily, and I'm looking at my phone to see it, saying that Donald Trump does believe that Barack Obama was born in the United States. So he is taking that extra step that he didn't take with the Washington Post interview that we were talking about in the first segment. I'm told it's going to be a lengthy statement. Again, I don't have it yet, but once we get it, we will read it and let you know. But this is a big moment, and one that he is going to obviously try to take to move beyond this. So he's no longer asked about this, and we'll talk about some of the other issues that he hopes will bring new people into the Trump fold.
All right, so we're awaiting a statement from the Trump campaign, which will say that Donald Trump does believe that President Obama was born in the United States, even though he was, as you said, the champion of the birther issue. Mark Preston is shaking his head, and like I told you, Don, I told you so. It wasn't. You said if he was waiting, what did you say? If he was waiting for the convention for a big moment, then.
Well, I mean, look, as we were going to break and we were talking here, I mean, the bottom line is that if he was going to wait to try to do this at the debate, it would be political malpractice, political strategic malpractice on his campaign to allow him to do so. By releasing it tonight, the story will eventually go away. Is it going to go away tomorrow? Probably not. We'll talk about it tomorrow. It will be all in every newspaper tomorrow. But by Sunday, issue taken off the plate. Right. That's important, because what was his big issue today? It was the economy. Guess what we're not talking about right now?
The economy, yeah. Go ahead, Philip.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. You know, I mean, I think it is a sign, though, that this is the campaign scrambling to keep up with something that Trump did. I mean, he said to the Washington Post a few hours ago he's waiting for the right time. I doubt the right time is 10:15 on Thursday night, right? I mean, maybe he was watching the Don Lemons program, which God bless him.
Oh, he does, because he often tweets about it. I mean, they must be watching someone because they called.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
They emailed Dan in the break.
So that was the big moment. But I mean, you know, yes, it is very good.
Here
to
it
get
is.
this off
We
the
got
table.
it.
It is not because.
All right, go, Dana.
Strategy.
Oh, okay. Give me a minute, because I just got it.
That's okay.
I'm just gonna read this on the fly, cold. Okay.
Okay.
He says in this statement from the campaign, Hillary Clinton's campaign first raised this issue to smear Barack Obama, and goes on to talk about in 2011, Mr. Trump was finally able to bring this ugly incident to its conclusion by successfully compelling President Obama to release his birth certificate. Mr. Trump did a great service to the president and the country by bringing closure to the issue that Hillary Clinton and her team first raised. Inarguably, Donald J. Trump is a closer, having successfully obtained President Obama's birth certificate when others could not. Here's the key line. Mr. Trump believes that President Obama was born in the United States. Mr. Trump is now totally focused on bringing jobs back to America, defeating radical Islamic terrorism, taking care of our veterans, introducing school choice and opportunities, and making the inner cities safe. And this is actually a statement from his senior communications advisor, Jason Miller, through his campaign. So.
And
there you
just
have it.
got it. And it's interesting. The interesting thing, Dana, is whether or not these words will come out of Donald Trump's mouth, and why wouldn't he just get up there and in front of a podium, in front of an audience, or something,
Well,
and
I'm
say,
sure
you know
he
what?
understands. Look, he knows he's going to be asked about it and probably in the next interview that he does. But once he does this, and now that he's done that, that interview will happen. He'll put it to bed, and he'll move on. And I actually tend to agree with Philip, who said earlier that there's some thinking that maybe his core supporters will abandon him because of this.
Yeah.
His core supporters, I just having been on the campaign trail and talking to so many of them, particularly during the primaries, they support him for the fact that he's different, that he's an outsider, that he's against trade deals, immigration, not this. I mean, that might be one of them, but this is not going to lose votes for him. I truly don't think.
So Dana, let's go through this statement, because I've just gotten it. It's from the Trump campaign, right? The one that you just read. So let's go through it. The first thing it says, Hillary Clinton's campaign first raised this issue to smear then candidate Barack Obama in her very nasty failed 2008 campaign for president.
Which is not true.
Okay,
Not
so you guys, let's go from there.
Sorry,
Go.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
yeah,
no, no.
That's not true.
That's
in
what I
fact
want you to do. Go ahead.
A number of times. There were some Hillary Clinton supporters that had raised this issue.
Out of Texas, right? Was there a woman?
Yeah, I believe
Yes,
that's right. Yeah,
they were
but it
passing
didn't-
emails
it
back
was
and
simply
forth,
not-
right?
Right.
But did they ever? I don't know. I don't think they ever said, was he born out of this country, outside of? Or,
campaign
They
sponsors.
weren't officially part of the campaign. They were volunteers.
That's right.
And then there was a memo, that Mark Penn had written, who was a top strategist, but never brought the birthday issue up, but had suggested that his nationality, could perhaps work against him or what have you. I mean, that's
that part
what-
you said is not true, and that has been fact checked. This type of vicious and conniving behavior is straight from the Clinton playbook. As usual, however, Hillary Clinton was too weak to get an answer. Even the MSNBC show Morning Joe admits that it was Clinton's henchman who first raised it, not Donald J. Trump. All right, so he's building a case for himself. He's saying Hillary Clinton was too weak to get an answer.
He's a patriot. I mean, he said in
Insisting that
2011, he brought this to a conclusion.
He did a favor for the American people.
did.
And I know we're going to get to that, but that's also not true. I mean, he was talking in January on CNN. He was asked about this issue, and he said, "Who knows where President Obama was born?" I mean,
Yeah. In 2011, Mr. Trump was finally able to bring this ugly incident to its conclusion by successfully compelling President Obama to release his birth certificate.
and then he spent another year and a half talking about the issue and supporting Sheriff Joe Arpaio in Arizona, who was going out and hunting for the real birth certificate.
Dana, is that something to be proud of, to make the president produce his birth certificate and then be wrong about him not, being born somewhere else?
I mean, I think I don't expect him to say anything different. If he's going to make this conclusion that the president was born in the United States, he's Donald Trump. Of course, he is going to go through the record of how it happened that the president did go to great lengths to release his long birth certificate. We all remember that happening. Now,
if we
he
can
didn't-
find that
he didn't-
soundbite,
he
it would be
didn't
great
say-
of the president saying, we don't have time for this when he produces his birth certificate. I would like to play that moment.
Yeah, but
and
he
also,
didn't
there's also a moment where he's saying, you wouldn't believe what it was an interview. I forget who. I don't know if it was Katie. I forget who it was with. No, it was Meredith Vieira, where he says, you won't believe, I have my investigators over in Africa and in Hawaii, and you won't believe what I'm finding out. And then he goes on to say, Mr. Trump did a great service to the president and to the country by bringing closure to the issue that Hillary Clinton and her team first raised. They brought the Hillary Clinton thing up again. Inarguably, Donald J. Trump is a closer. Having successfully obtained President Obama's birth certificate when others could not, Mr. Trump believes that President Obama was born in the United States. I have to give Jason Miller, this is a pretty interesting read.
Here's the thing you have to ask yourself, too, about the whole issue. For the Republican Party, and let me defend the Republican Party in this. Almost every Republican official in Washington, I think just about every one of them, believes that Barack Obama was born in the United States.
Republican officials. but not most Republicans, I believe, especially Donald Trump supporters.
Look,
Most
I think it's like 20% of
born
people
outside of the
who
United
are
States and
asked in
Muslim.
national polls think he was born. And by the way, they all don't have to be Republicans. Some of those could be very conservative Democrats. They could be independents.
Or just people who are divorced from reality.
Or correct. I mean, they don't even need a political affiliation. But the fact is that this issue should have been put to bed a long time ago. Hillary Clinton's email issue should have never happened. These medical records that we've got in the last 24 hours should have been put together
Donald
a long
Trump should
time
have
ago.
released his tax.
The taxes should have been released a long time ago.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just another a line of transparency that we're not seeing from either candidate, basically.
Dana, Mr. Trump is now totally focused on bringing jobs back to America, defeating radical Islamic terrorism, taking care of our veterans, introducing school choice opportunities, and rebuilding and making our inner cities safe again.
Well,
End of story. It's done. This issue is over.
Well, that's what he hopes. When I was talking to the senior aide who I talked to in the commercial break, who gave us the breaking news that we reported that this statement was coming, that was my first question. Why now? And the answer was so we can focus on other things, the things in that statement. Before, when we were trying to figure out why he wasn't just saying, okay, fine, the president was born in the United States. You, Don, were saying, well, maybe he's waiting for the debate. Our colleague David Chalian just emailed me something that's, of course, smart, which is all David Chalian says are smart things. And this is, it's because he wants it off the table before the debate, because this is not something that he wants to be even a nanosecond of a focus during the debate. And you know, just from the way Hillary Clinton jumped on it tonight, the fact that the Washington Post interview went online with Trump, sort of declining to say that the president was born in the United States. I think it was maybe 5 minutes between then and when Hillary Clinton added that to her prepared remarks in her speech this evening. So they knew that this was going to be a potential issue. And again, remember, take a step back. This, at this point, is about Donald Trump being really close in a lot of these battleground states. And to get over the line to the V column, he has to expand his supporters, expand his base. He's got those people. He needs to appeal to others.
Philip, we're going to talk more. I know you want to get in, and I promise you we'll get into it. The interesting thing is that you have to give him credit for, at least now he's admitted it. I mean, somewhat. You give him some credit to that, although I see people in the studio saying no. It took him way too long to do it. But the interesting thing is that why does it take so long for the campaign to admit, or why are they so tone deaf sometimes? To admit that there are issues, especially when we were all sitting here, when the night that he gave the speech in Milwaukee, and we said, why is he giving the speech to a mostly white crowd? And the night before, the campaign manager just was completely floored by what are you talking about? So I think that in this one issue they were tone deaf. Now they're trying to make up for it. Will it work? We'll discuss when we come back. We're back now with our breaking news. Mark Preston's here, Dana Bash, and Philip Bump. The Trump campaign releasing a statement saying that, in fact, that Donald Trump does now believe that the president of the United States was born here in the United States, born in Hawaii. You said the one thing that it is not, Philip Bump, is what?
It is not an apology. I mean, the one thing he says there is he doesn't say, why he took that position in the past. He doesn't say, very importantly, that was the wrong position. I should not have questioned that. He says essentially that it was a valid question that he got answered. If he's trying to expand his base, if he's trying to reach out to black voters, if he's trying to reach out to communities of color, that's not necessarily what voters want to hear. They don't want to hear, okay, yes, I accept that an obvious fact is an obvious fact. They want to hear, here's why I said things that really undercut the president of the United States.
Another, as we were saying before the break, an example of tone deafness, which they don't understand many times. In 2011, Mr. Trump, this is a part of the statement here. In 2011, Mr. Trump was finally able to bring this ugly incident to its conclusion by successfully compelling President Obama to release his birth certificate. Mr. Trump did a great service to the president and the country by bringing closure to the issue that Hillary Clinton and her team first raised. Inarguably, Donald J. Trump is a closer, having successfully obtained President Obama's birth certificate when others could not. Mr. Trump believes that President Obama was born in the United States. Dana, were there that many people trying to get President Obama's birth certificate?
Not who had the megaphone or the public image of Donald Trump. No, not even close. And that is what put Donald Trump on the map as a political force within the Republican Party and within this sector. It sort of helped him plant the seed with Republican primary voters that, of course, he expanded on issues that we were talking about before, immigration, trade, and things like that. So no. And I think, of course, he's not going to apologize because that is not Donald Trump. He did just the opposite. He took credit for it.
Now he doubled down, right?
He took credit for it. He said, no, he's the whole reason why this happened. Look, I mean, I think that we're talking about it now, as I said before. As they're hoping inside the Trump campaign, we're not going to be talking about it much more. And they obviously realize until they answer the question this way, they're not going to stop getting questions about it. I mean, Donald Trump got a question about it from the Washington Post this week. There were questions about it last week. And also, he's got his vice presidential running mate saying that he thinks that Obama was born in the United States. His campaign manager saying that. So it was probably only a matter of time before they convinced Mr. Trump himself that in this new management, this is one of those things you just got to get off the table and move on if you think that you are going to expand your base.
But does this get it off the table? You said we won't be talking about it, Mark Preston, because to Philip's point, it's not an apology, and many people want to hear a good old-fashioned, I'm sorry, I was wrong.
Right. How about, and I think we need to reset kind of where we're at right now, because there is a conspiracy theory from those who support Donald Trump that this is a media-made, cable television-driven issue, okay? We didn't bring this up. We didn't go out all the time and do interviews and say, listen, I'm sending investigators to Hawaii. We didn't do interviews, as you said, where he went out and said, you should see what I'm learning from my investigators, okay?
And we didn't reach out to the African-American community for their vote and then realize this is a big issue when it comes to African-Americans.
Right. And listen, to the point we are right now, you had Kellyanne Conway, his campaign manager, say Donald Trump doesn't believe it anymore. Rudy Giuliani, very respected, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, very respected person, says, look, Donald Trump doesn't believe it anymore. When Donald Trump was asked by the Washington Post about this, he chose not to answer it directly, okay? So this isn't driven by us. This was driven by Donald Trump. And you know what? Like, he put out an economic plan today that was kind of fascinating, right? But he chose to override it by doing this interview the night before where something was going to explode. Now, it will get taken off the plate, as it should be, and we can really start talking about the real issues. But again, this is a Donald Trump-made self-inflicted wound.
And can I just add one thing that I'm getting emails from Democrats, and they're actually rightly pointing out that it was Jason Miller, his spokesman, who released this statement. It wasn't in the words and in the name of Donald Trump. So the next question, before it is, I don't know about put to bed, but that he can stop being asked about it, is when we hear it from Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Although he's probably likely to say, I've already dealt with that the first time. Right.
Yeah, and that has been taken care of. And also, there's a thought that I'm getting emails saying they believe, in their estimation, that Hillary Clinton had a great comeback day, and Donald Trump is now changing the narrative. And we were talking about Donald Trump. Again, this segment, we're going to talk about Hillary Clinton's first day back from suffering from pneumonia. And look what we're talking about. We're talking about Donald Trump once again. All right, panel, thank you very much. We'll continue with our breaking news. A statement from the Trump campaign saying that Donald Trump finally does now believe that Barack Obama, the president of the United States, was born here in the United States. That statement coming from one of the campaign advisors, Jason Miller, not directly from Donald Trump. We'll see if he's going to discuss it himself in the coming days. In the meantime, we'll move on, and we'll be right back right after this break.